How's it, peeps?
My name is Jeff.
And welcome to another episode of Something Amazing. It's a chilly Saturday morning in July.
I don't understand why you're so cold.
And today we're going to be upgrading the RAM in our system. So let's get into it. So we were finally able to get another B-die memory module, the XPG memory module that we have in our system. Big shout out to Gerard from Computers Only for the help. And the whole point was we wanted to upgrade to a dual channel system. So currently we were running 8 gigs of RAM on a single channel system, and now we upgraded to 16 gigs on a dual channel. Just to show you what we did, here's our system, and we basically were upgrading to the dual channel system using the primary slots on the Asus X470 Prime motherboard. Yes, notice the RGB. My Counter-Strike teammates hate it.
This is blasphemy.
But RGB is wonderful, man. It's happy.
It looks like magic.
But anyway, the whole point, we wanted to do some benchmark testing to see what kind of results we would get. Did it make a difference? Would it make an improvement? We all are aware that the AMDs do respond to better memory speeds. So we wanted to see what kind of results we would yield. So there were 2 basic tests that we did. The first one was a benchmark test that most people use, which is Cinebench. And the reason we went for Cinebench is because beside our PC being a gaming PC, it's also used as a workstation. So we wanted to see what our rendering performance would be like, and what our CPU and GPU performance would be like. So we're using the Cinebench R15, and on the 8 gig module we got a score of 1429 at 84.12 frames per second. And on the 16 gig setup, the score increased to 1446, and the frame rate jumped up to 98.78 frames per second. So there was a marked improvement, and that was expected because now we are splitting the workload over 2 channels rather than 1 memory module and a single channel taking on the entire workload. So the second benchmark test that we chose was PC user benchmark. It's a free benchmark that's online, and the reason we chose it is it basically, it's a speed test tool, and it compares your results to other users with the same components. So it checks what components you have on a system, and it gives you a scoring and a rating and an average, and places you on a graph compared to other users with the same setup. And how it works is, it basically, on the CPU tests, it includes integer, floating, and string. On the drive test, it checks your read and write speed, sustained write, and mixed interfaces. On your RAM test, it does single and multi-core bandwidth and latency, which was important for us. And the other important thing was, it also compares your in-game FPS to other users with the same hardware. And on the GPU side, it does 6 3D game simulations. Okay, so on the first overall performance on our 8 gig single channel setup, from a gaming perspective, they rated us at 74%, with a desktop setup of 94% and a workstation setup of 84%. what this means is they said overall this PC is performing above expectations, above the 66th percentile, which means that out of 100 PCs with the exact same components, only 34 perform better. We had a good single core count, and obviously the most important thing was the memory, but we'll look at the individual scores. On our 16 gig setup, that score improved to 76% on our gaming, from a gaming perspective, so it was 2% up. But the desktop and workstation, it improved to 99%. And that was significant, obviously, for us as well, because we do use this computer as a workstation. It's important to note as well, this testing, it when it was running the testing, I saw it does 4K testing, it does 16 thread testing, so it puts the PC through the paces. Going into the memory kit benchmark testing, in the 8 gig system, it gave us a benchmark average of 54% with a latency of 75.2, and it gave us obviously a percentage rating of 53%. It did single core and multi-core testing, and the results are here. But what was significant was when we went to the 16 gig dual channel setup, that score improved to, well, the latency improved to 75.8, but our score went up to 105% from 54%. So that was quite significant. The last test we decided to do was basically an After Effects render. So anybody that uses After Effects will tell you that it consumes a lot of your CPU usage, and also it just chows RAM, man. Especially if you're running a project that has a lot of effects, a lot of motions, etc. So we decided to export one of our promo videos that we had done, and on the 8 gig system, it managed to export that promo in 7 minutes and 55 seconds. Going to 16 gigs of RAM on the dual channel, the score or the render time dropped to 6 minutes and 2 seconds. So we saved almost a minute on the rendering time. The other important thing is, like Kuda, he uses the older version of the iMac Pro, and in After Effects he can never do live rendering. With 8 gigs of RAM on the system, we were able to live render, but it would render a little bit slow, but we were able to play back the video in After Effects, which is something he struggles to do on his iMac. But on the 16 gigs of RAM, this thing ran smoothly, and you'll see it in the clip. But it's got a smooth rendering time, and it renders out quite fast. So you'll see the motion of the green bar. It moves quite quickly, and that's even on a half resolution. If we decrease it to quarter, it will render obviously a lot faster. So what I can say is 16 gigs of RAM on a dual channel setup has been quite significant. I did do some testing obviously in PUBG and Counter-Strike Go, where we saw an average increase in frame rates of about 30 to 40 frames per second, but we didn't benchmark those games, unfortunately. But it's obviously made markedly improved obviously our system, and we're gonna continue to test it and see how it goes. 16 gigs of RAM seems to be more than ample now for obviously the editing that we're doing, and if we choose to go to 4K and the 4K editing. And we'll see in future if there'll be a need to upgrade to 32 gigs of RAM and use all 4 slots, use the 2 remaining slave slots. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope it will help somebody out there if it was informative, and you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell for to be notified of future episodes.